Global growth to fall by 4.9%. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heiser here, and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. Let's have a look at a release, an update from the International Monetary Fund regarding their predictions of global growth. Essentially, the global economy is going to take a 4.9% hit, and look at some of the countries that might be important to Australia. Australia is a country that exports a lot of natural resources and farming products. We also have a big tourism industry where, I'll bring up this chart, $60 billion. We have a lot of international migration. We have a lot of international students. And all of that feeds into our property and our education sectors. We looked at earlier today where the professional services are starting to let people go. The numbers still haven't been determined from universities, but they're expecting significant job losses. So let's have a look at this. A crisis like no other, an uncertain recovery. Global growth is projected at negative 4.9% in 2020, 1.9% below the April World Economic Outlook forecast. So they're updating their forecast to make it look even worse. So a 5% decline in global economy. That's pretty bad, everyone. That's very bad. The pandemic has had a more negative impact on activity in the first half of 2020 than anticipated, and the recovery is projected to be more gradual than previously forecast. In 2021, global growth is projected at 5.4%. Overall, this would leave 2021 GDP some 6.5 percentage points lower than the pre-pandemic projections of 2020. The adverse impact on low-income households is particularly acute, imperiling the significant progress made in reducing extreme poverty in the world since the 1990s. That's kind of gut-wrenching, really. Poverty has taken a huge hit, and I know some people may argue that, but the reality is, yes, it has. Capitalism is probably one of the best things that's ever been created to alleviate poverty in the world. And you've got all these stereotypes of so poor people in Africa, and I have to keep correcting me, and I go, no. Look at Hans Rosling's data. It's not as, people aren't as destitute as your kindergarten teacher told you. So as with the April 2020 WEO projections, there is a higher than usual degree of uncertainty around the forecast. The baseline projection rests on key assumptions about the fallout from the pandemic. In economies with declining infection rates, the slower recovery path in the updated forecast reflects persistent social distancing into the second half of 2020. Greater scarring, damage to supply potential from the larger than anticipated hit to activity during the lockdown in the first and second quarters of 2020, and a hit to productivity as surviving businesses ramp up necessary workplace safety and hygiene practices. For economies struggling to control infection rates, a lengthier lockdown will inflict an additional toll on activity. Moreover, the forecast assumes that financial conditions which have eased following the release of the April report will remain broadly at current levels. Alternative outcomes to those in the baseline are clearly possible, and not just because of how the pandemic is evolving. The extent of the recent rebound in financial market sentiment appears disconnected from shifts in underlying economic prospects. Well, it's good to see they realize that. It seems crazy, doesn't it? As the June 2020 GF Global Financial Stability Report update discusses, raising the possibility that financial conditions may tighten more than assumed in the baselines. All countries, including those that have seemingly passed peaks in infection, should ensure that their healthcare systems are adequately resourced. The international community must vastly step up its support of national initiatives, including through financial assistance to countries with limited health care capacities, and channeling of funding for vaccine production as trials advanced, so that adequate, affordable doses are quickly available to all countries. Where lockdowns are required, economic policy should continue to cushion household income losses with sizable, well-targeted measures, as well as provide support to firms suffering the consequences of mandated restrictions on activity. Where economies are reopening, targeted support should be gradually unwound as the recovery gets underway, and policies should provide stimulus to lift demand and ease and incentivize the relocation of resources away from sectors likely to emerge persistently smaller after the pandemic. I think we're going to see that in some sectors here in Australia. I think tourism is going to be one of them. Strong multilateral cooperation remains essential on multiple fronts. Liquidity assistance is urgently needed for countries confronting health crises and external funding shortfalls, including through debt relief and financing through global financial safety nets. Beyond the pandemic, policymakers must cooperate to resolve trade and technology tensions that endanger an eventual recovery from the crisis. Furthermore, building on the record drop in greenhouse gas emissions during the pandemic, policymakers should both implement their climate change mitigation commitments and work towards to scale up equitable designed carbon taxations or equivalent schemes. I love this. They're arguing for all these other support mechanisms and then want to implement taxation. I mean, it's the IMF, guys. It doesn't need to make sense, does it? The global community must act now to avoid a repeat of this catastrophe by building global stockpiles of essential supplies and protective equipment, funding research and supporting public health systems, and putting in place effective modalities for delivering relief to the neediest. And we can see here what we'll have a look at. I mean, here we go. Here's the emerging markets. We can see the United States, now their predictions are 2020, an 8% hit. Sorry, for the advanced markets. And then in 2021, a 4.5% increase. Euro, the whole euro area, a 10.2% hit in 2020. That is a huge economic hit, guys. Germany, 7.9. France, 12.5. Italy, 12.8. Spain, 12.8. Japan, down 5.8. UK, 10%. Canada, 8.4. Other advanced economies, 4.8. So the emerging and developing Asia. So China, only 1% growth in 2020, which is insane. India down 4.5. ASEAN 5 down 2. Russia down 6.6. Brazil down 9. Mexico 10. Saudi Arabia down 6. Nigeria down 4.5. South Africa 8. If we jump here to the more detailed report, we can just find, and we'll go down to have a look at Australia. I mean, here you go. Here's the world. These are the different predictions. Advanced economy. China is going to shoot back up. Quarterly GDP. We'll scroll down here a bit further. Let's have a look. I mean, here we go. World output. We're not in this table. Come on, where's Australia? I think they've got us pegged pretty bad. 4.8%. We can see here, global financial crisis, government debt, observed fiscal balance. So it's not looking too good for the global economy. But here we go. Do they have Australia here? Oh, come on. We don't even rank. We don't even rank. I thought we were on the list. Anyway. One thing that's important is, here we are. Their current projections are Australia 8.6 in 2020 and 8.4 in 2021. The fiscal balance. Where's our GDP growth? Oh, they don't have it. Anyway, that's not looking too good, but we're not the worst of the worst. But one thing I want to consider is, well, look at these countries, and we'll bring up another website, everyone, just to get an understanding of what these impacts could be. Now, if we see here, this is from the Observatory of Economic Complexity. We can look at the destination of our exports. China is at 35.5%. And here they're predicting China to take a hit with only their growth will essentially fall by 5%. That's going to have an impact for our resources. So that's not looking good for Australia. Japan is 11% of our resources. What's Japan looking like here? They're saying a 5.8% fall. Well, no, sorry, a negative 5.8% GDP growth, but from a growth of 0.7, which was pretty low, that's a big hit. And then next, where do they have here? They've got South Korea is as well, 7.7. The United States, 3.9. So all of these countries don't well, are all looking at falling. It's all looking at having an impact on Australia's economy. It's all going to feed through, everyone, to these natural resources that we're exporting. It's all going to feed through to our tourism industry. It's going to feed through to the demand for education as well. So it's not really painting a rosy picture. Not at all. What do you think, everyone? Do you think 4.9 is an accurate prediction for global? Do you think we'll have that bounce back next year on the world at 5.4%? Or do you think they don't quite know how bad it's going to be? As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and KuCoin. You can buy our merch from Heise Says. You can support us using Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next time.